In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern, taking a look at a warming trend, for now at least, on the models. I've noticed it for the probably past 3 or 4 days that the models have continuously looked less and less cold. And don't get it mistaken, there is still going to be some cold in the central and eastern states. We're still going to be seeing a pretty consistent battle between the two air masses. But the biggest change that I'm noticing on these models is that it's really not, there's no cold air coming in that's taking over the entire central and eastern states. The warmth is still there, especially in the south, pretty much for every single frame of these model runs. So that is a little bit of a change there. We do have plenty of severe weather expected, especially over the next 5 days. And we do actually see quite a bit of storminess outside of that as well. So let's go ahead and dive into things, and we're taking a look at the past 14 days here. So this is the first 14 days of June. As you can see, we have dealt with this positive PNA really taking hold. I made an interesting community post on my YouTube channel yesterday where areas of central Alaska near Fairbanks do have a heat advisory. I think it's a heat advisory. Let me check here. Yeah, it's a heat advisory. So up in Alaska near Fairbanks, there was a heat advisory for the first time ever in the history of that area. And they're expecting near 90 degrees. On that community post, it notes that only 2% of the people who live there actually have air conditioning. So imagine 90 degrees or even 85 to 90 degrees with no AC. Probably your lows are still like 75, 72, 75, something like that. So that is going to be a crazy situation. And that is coming as a result of this positive PNA that has been in effect. And it really has been extreme, not only in terms of intensity, how far up that North American West Coast it's been stretching, but also just the longevity of it and consistency since November of last year. And I can recall in September, we saw this in effect a lot last year as well. So we're looking at a long-term positive PNA phase that we've been in. Very interesting. And the result of this is this cold air in the central states. We originally had seen it in the southeast area, but the last week has been so warm that we have seen this area turn from cold to at least average to even a little bit above average. And we'll have to see how the next half of June goes, and we might actually see this area just overall be warmer throughout the summer. Pretty interesting stuff there. As we take a look at the current temperature anomalies, we can see that for now, this weekend, this positive PNA is still in full effect, full swing effect here. And we can see the cooler air moving down into the central and eastern states for a lot of the upcoming pattern as well. As we take a look at further in, as we keep going, we see that this positive PNA, it does stick around. We do see these warmer temperatures really just kind of hanging out, but we do see some warmth mixed in with the cold in the east, where again, it's not a full-blown cold pattern at all by any means. As we keep going towards kind of like late next week, this is Thursday the 19th, we do see that a lot of this warm air is spreading further eastward, kind of taking it from a true positive PNA pattern into something else, especially when you take into account these cooler temperatures near the northwest coast of North America, or of the United States, and also the southwest areas of Canada. There is still some colder air here in the east, but this is probably going to change things up a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean completely, because by the time we're looking at Monday the 23rd, we do see still some warmth along that west coast, but there is a lot of cold air in the west here. So this is enough to kind of shake it up. And as you can see, we do have a lot of warmth here, to the point where we have the National Weather Service kind of indicating some of these areas could be dealing with some extreme heat during this time frame. So they're already starting to make long-range outlooks for that. For I think the 23rd through 26th, there's at least a slight chance of extreme heat. And I think it's from the 24th to the 25th that we have a moderate risk of that. So already, again, the National Weather Service is kind of eyeing this. As we keep going, though, we do see some cooler air work its way back in, especially beyond the 26th into the 27th, 28th. But again, there is still some warmth around as well, so it's not a true, full-blown cool down at all. There's some warmer air in the west, there's some cooler air, and we end up in something that looks a lot more normal for the summertime, where we're not dealing with extreme cold or hot really anywhere. We're just within, 5 to 10 degrees of average pretty much everywhere here. So again, this is a lot more normal, and hopefully kind of takes us into July with a much more normal summertime pattern. And maybe we can even end up in the rest of summer, July into August, even just being a lot more typical. Looking at some of this storminess, there is a lot of thunderstorms around. If you watch yesterday's video, today's video isn't going to be too different. Many of the days that we're going to look at here are just going to feature most of the central and eastern states dealing with at least isolated chances of thunderstorms, if not even scattered or even widespread. So this is for today. Again, thunderstorms everywhere for the deep south, Ohio Valley, mid-Atlantic, northeast here for today on Saturday the 14th. Sunday on the 15th here, we see a lot of it for the deeper south up the east coast again. Even some of that happening for the Rocky states, especially the eastern regions of those states where it's more like plains or more like a plateau or something like that. These areas do experience pretty bad severe weather oftentimes, and a lot of those end up being supercells and even tornadic. So we're seeing tornado threats, hail threats in these areas, of course, damaging wind, but these are usually supercell type storms, and those tend to be some of the worst, obviously. Monday the 16th, I mean, really, what can I even break down differently? It looks almost identical to Saturday and Sunday at this point. Tuesday even, maybe a little bit more thunderstorm activity overall for pretty much all of these areas. There's a couple of regions in between where we're a little drier, but if you're seeing light greens anywhere close to you, then you're probably dealing with at least an isolated chance of thunderstorms. We do see, again, those eastern regions of the Rocky states, again, dealing with more widespread thunderstorm activity and even severe weather. Where I think they could enter into a phase of really active severe weather here. Outside of that, I mean, the entire eastern states are dealing with at least isolated to scattered chances of thunderstorms there. Tuesday the 17th. Let's move towards Wednesday on the 18th, and we see again, I mean, really hard to break down because it's just pretty much everywhere that we are seeing these chances. Obviously, it looks like we have a little bit of a cool cold front, warm front dynamic going on with a low somewhere in here. It's just to the south, but something like that is what we're seeing. And I think that there could be a more elevated chance of severe weather in this area for a day like Wednesday, the 18th. We also see a pretty rich Gulf flow moving up the southeastern areas. So that is something that we're seeing pretty consistently here. Thursday, the 19th, it's mostly this low now that's taking effect. We see the cold front there, warm front's well offshore. So we're seeing pretty quick movement of warm, humid air moving up the east coast, and we are seeing another round of cooler, drier air moving in behind that creates a lot of instability. Don't be surprised if there is a severe weather threat to some extent for these eastern areas come late next week. So think Thursday, Friday, the 19th, 20th time frame will be definitely a time frame to watch for the eastern seaboard. Now, as we move towards Friday, we see, so it's mostly Thursday, because Friday here we see really that cold, dry air does really slow down our thunderstorm activity. There is some isolated areas here, but you can tell this is much different from what we were dealing with before. We are seeing another low form here for the Dakotas, Nebraska area with some showery activity, maybe some thunderstorms to the north of the low, but typically in that more northern territory north of a low, we expect mostly just showery activity. We see that in full swing effect there. For Saturday, the 21st, we can see this is a very dry low, 996. This one up here as well doesn't really have too defined of a cold front at all. It's not until we reach really towards Sunday the 22nd where we do get somewhat of a cold front effect, or maybe a stationary front where we're dealing with some thunderstorms along South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, maybe the UP of Michigan there as well. So we'll be watching for that next weekend. This is kind of between the medium and long range, so keep that in mind as well, that this definitely could change a bit. So take it with a grain of salt beyond this point, of course. We do see this activity mostly kind of switch to where we're seeing mostly the northern states of the central and eastern regions. dealing with these thunderstorms now. The deeper south areas, while there's some isolated activity, are, again, as we noted, much more slowed down from what we were dealing with. As we move towards Tuesday, I mean, a lot of the same. It's much quieter. Wednesday, the 25th as well. I mean, there's this streak of potential thunderstorms in here, but it is still much slowed down from what it once was. Moving towards the 26th on Thursday here, a couple pockets to watch, like the Four Corner States, some of the Midwest and Northern Plains, but really not seeing that widespread isolated thunderstorm threat. Friday, the 27th, we see this low forming with some activity to the north of it. Again, there could be some thunderstorms, even severe weather in there, but typically showery to the north of these lows with a lot less thunderstorm chance. And this is very far out as well. What's interesting is that low does swing through the Ohio Valley, the Northeast, and eventually ends up offshore of Maine, becoming a little bit of like a Miller B nor'easter, which typically comes from these types of storm tracks and then moves offshore of the Northeast, down to a 989. So that's a very strong low for the summertime. We do see a kind of dragging cold front behind this one, and it's more of a backdoor cold front, so it's interesting. Typically, obviously, this time of year, our cold fronts come from west to east, but this one is swinging down from north to south. Very, very odd, and this would have thunderstorms moving from north to south along these areas into very hot and humid areas, acting more as like a backdoor cold front. This is rather unusual, and it is at hours 360. This is the final frame of the model run, so take this with a grain of salt, but quite frankly, I hope this happens because I've not seen very many systems like this in the summertime, and I'd be extremely curious to see how this would play out. Part of me wonders if with this cold front swinging directly from north to south, right from the cold to the hot, humid conditions, if that would create even more of that spark to create these thunderstorms and more instability. Probably there's like a 99% chance this will not happen this way. So definitely something to be curious about, but I'm not counting on it happening at this point at all. So let's go ahead and take a look at the total precipitation. With all of this activity in mind, it's very similar to yesterday. I mean, the eastern and central states are active, at least to an average extent for most of these areas. But the most active area actually is going to be from these northern plains into the upper Midwest, into the Great Lakes, and then into eastern Canada, where they're seeing the most above average precipitation, and really the most precipitation, period. These brownish gray areas are 5 to 10 inches of precipitation over just the next 2 weeks, which is highly above average. So let's look at the actual anomaly of it. And typically I say these blues are at least twice your average. So we're seeing that pretty widespread throughout this area. Definitely very active in here over the next few weeks. And then we could see areas further to the south are a lot closer to normal. Either, a quarter to half an inch below average, or a quarter to half an inch above average in a lot of these southern areas. Now, as we take a look at the Storm Prediction Center outlooks, here's day one for today on Saturday the 14th. We see a very large light green area. That's what we call our general thunderstorm risk area, and that's where we expect general thunderstorms, as the name suggests. But anything is possible, and these forecasts are very tricky, so there still could be some severe weather in there. So heat every watch, warning, and advisory. We do have that darker green area. We have two of them, actually, one for the mid-Atlantic and then one for a lot of the central states. That is going to be where we expect isolated severe weather to occur. And then that yellow area, again, for that eastern Rocky States areas like Montana, Wyoming, and then into South Dakota, Nebraska, a bit of Colorado and Kansas as well. That is your level 2 slight risk, where we expect more scattered about severe weather. And I bet we'll see some supercells forming, especially in this Montana, Wyoming region. Very classic stuff here. Day 2 for Sunday on the 15th, tomorrow, we see the same thing, general thunderstorms, the two marginal risks in very similar areas, and then the slight risk there for Montana, Wyoming, and then again the northern and central plains there. So pretty similar day tomorrow. And then for Monday, the 16th, we see similar areas still seeing threats of thunderstorms and severe weather, but a little bit removed to the east. And then we're missing that marginal risk in the mid-Atlantic, but still pretty close, honestly. And then as we move into the extended range, they don't do the categorical outlooks for day 4 and beyond, What we get is a 15 or 30% chance of severe weather, and this yellow region here is the 15%. That does translate to a slight risk, so we expect at least a slight risk in this area for Tuesday the 17th on day 4. And then as we move towards day 5, we have another extended day outlook for some of the Midwest into a bit of the Great Lakes as well there, where we at least expect a slight risk here for Wednesday the 18th. Remember, the following day where we don't have a long-range outlook for the 19th here on Thursday is where I was saying that probably the eastern states need to watch out for some activity, but it's too early to tell for sure. But I think some thunderstorms to probably a slimmer risk of severe weather is pretty much the minimum here for Thursday of what to expect on the eastern states. With all that being said, be sure to subscribe. We upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.